So today we're going to dig into a question that I think anyone who's ever looked at an online course has asked themselves. When is a certificate actually worth the money? And we're going to get to the bottom of it by exploring the ancient art of persuasion, all thanks to a really specific, very modern problem a high school student posted online. Okay, so here it is. This is the Reddit post from a student in Morocco that kicked this whole thing off. They found a free Harvard course on rhetoric, which is awesome. But to get a verified certificate, it costs $209. They think it would be a fantastic addition to their resume, but is it worth it? And right away, the comments just split down the middle. You've got one side saying, yeah, it's a huge plus for your CV, a real credential. And then the other side is just like, nope, it's nothing more than a very expensive piece of paper. So who's right? All right, so to really figure this out, we have to start with the course itself. I mean, what are you actually getting for that $209?
So, here are the stats. It's a Harvard course offered through edX. It takes about 8 weeks, just a few hours a week. And here's the most important part. You can learn everything, all the material, for free. That $209 price tag, that is only for the certificate.
So to really understand the value of that piece of paper, we first need to get a handle on the value of the skill itself. What is this course even teaching? Well, it's teaching rhetoric, the art of persuasion. At its core, rhetoric is really just the craft of communicating effectively. It's not just about winning an argument. It's about connecting with people to inform them, get them excited, or maybe even change their minds. You can see how that's a skill that's valuable in, well, pretty much every part of life. Now, this idea is nothing new. We're talking about going back thousands of years to ancient Greece. The philosopher Aristotle was one of the first to really break down how persuasion works, and he came up with 3 fundamental appeals. First up, you've got ethos. This is all about your credibility. It's the answer to the question, why should I listen to you? It's your reputation, your expertise, your character. It's about building trust. Then there's pathos, which is the appeal to emotion. This isn't about spreadsheets and data. It's about making someone feel something. You know, a powerful story can be way more persuasive than a list of facts. And finally, there's logos. This is the appeal to logic, the cold, hard facts. It's your evidence, your data, the way you structure your argument. The best arguments, of course, manage to weave all 3 of these together perfectly. Okay, so that's the 2,000-year-old theory. But what does it actually look like in practice? Let's take a look inside a modern speaker's toolkit. Turns out Harvard's own professional development blog has this great 5-step guide for public speaking. And look at this. You can see Aristotle's ideas all over it. You've got pathos to grab attention, logos to build a clear structure, and ethos to be authentic and build credibility. It all connects. And what's really fascinating is how modern psychology totally backs up these ancient ideas. The researcher Robert Cialdini identified what he calls 6 universal weapons of influence. These are basically psychological shortcuts our brains use to make decisions. And a couple of these are super relevant here. Our tendency to trust authority and our instinct to follow the crowd, which he calls social proof. Okay, so now that we're armed with this whole toolkit of persuasion, from Aristotle to modern psychology, let's jump back into that Reddit thread and see what's really driving the debate over that $209 certificate. So the main argument against paying, it's basically an attack on the certificate's ethos. What these users are saying is that because anyone with a credit card can get one, the Harvard brand, its authority, gets watered down. The credibility just isn't strong enough for a non-degree online course. But then the original student comes back with this brilliant counter-argument, and it's all about context. He's using the idea of social proof. He says, look, I know my audience, future employers in Morocco. And he argues that in his culture, the Harvard brand has massive authority, no matter how he got it. For his specific goal, the ethos is totally there. Then, another user throws in a totally different angle. For them, the $209 isn't about persuading an employer. It's about persuading yourself. By paying for it, you're using the principle of commitment and consistency. You now have skin in the game, which motivates you to actually finish the course and work hard at it. So you see what's happening, right? This is not a simple question. The certificate itself is a tool of persuasion. For some people, it's a way to leverage authority and social proof to impress an audience. For others, it's a tool for self-motivation. And for a lot of people, its ethos just isn't strong enough to be worth the money. All of this brings us right back to that big final question.
After looking at all this, after diving into the art of persuasion, what's the verdict? For the knowledge itself, the cost is zero. The ability to understand Aristotle, to build an argument, to see how persuasion works, you can get all of that for free. The actual skill doesn't cost a thing. That $209 is for something else entirely. It's for a signal. It's a piece of paper that's trying to use the principle of authority. It's a motivational tool that uses the principle of commitment. You're not buying knowledge, you're buying a rhetorical device. And honestly, that's the real takeaway here. The most powerful thing you can get from a course like this isn't the certificate. It's understanding the very principles we just talked about, because those are the skills that are truly universal. The certificate, it's just one small tool in a much, much bigger toolkit. At the end of the day, deciding to buy that certificate is a strategic choice. It's a rhetorical choice. Its value isn't some fixed thing. It completely depends on who your audience is and what you're trying to achieve. Because once you know who you need to persuade, you can decide if a $209 piece of paper is the right tool for the job, or if the skills you just learned for free are more than persuasive enough all on their own. And really, that's a question only you can answer.
Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever felt like you had a great idea, but it didn't land? Or maybe found yourself sweating at the mere thought of speaking in public?
Oh, absolutely. It's such a common feeling. And, these skills, they aren't just for like politicians or big stage orators. They're really essential for pretty much your personal, public, and professional lives.
Right.
And what we want to do in this deep dive is give you a shortcut, sort of, to understanding how to actually move hearts and minds, the tools you need.
And we've got a fantastic stack of sources today. We're pulling from Harvard's professional development tips, a Harvard online course digging into rhetoric itself, a Grammarly guide on persuasive writing, which is super practical, plus examples from some really powerful historical speakers, and even a pretty lively Reddit discussion about the value of learning this stuff.
Yeah, that Reddit thread was interesting.
So first hurdle, public speaking. It terrifies people, right? Like more than spiders sometimes.
It really does. That sweaty palms feeling is real. But Marjorie North, she's a consultant, coaches all sorts of people, politicians, doctors, lawyers.
Okay.
She actually says that nervousness, well, it's normal. In fact, she argues some nerves are actually good.
Good. How so?
Well, that adrenaline hit, it makes you alert, more focused. The trick isn't to, eliminate it, but to channel it.
Okay, channel the fear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the absolute best way to manage that anxiety, according to North, it's simply to prepare, and prepare some more.
Oh, the P word. Practice.
Well, yes, practice, but it's more like internalize. You need to know your message so well it's not a script anymore, it's just you talking. Videotaping yourself, or maybe getting a friend to listen and give honest feedback, that can be invaluable.
That makes sense. I mean, I still get a bit jittery sometimes before we record. Remembering it's just my brain gearing up, that actually helps.
Right. So once you've kind of made peace with the nerves, what's the next step for really connecting?
This is where it gets really interesting, I think. North really stresses, know your audience. Your speech is about them, not you.
That's huge.
Yeah. Understanding who you're talking to, what do they know already, what do they care about, that dictates everything. Your words, how much detail, how you structure it all.
It's like building a bridge, isn't it? From your idea to their world.
Exactly. And you can't just deliver some canned speech you learned by rote.
No way. North says you absolutely have to watch for feedback and adapt to it. Stay flexible.
So read the room.
Pretty much. Are they nodding, zoning out? You need to be ready to adjust, maybe explain something differently or speed up or slow down. It turns it from like a lecture into more of a conversation.
And that keeps people tuned in. What about being, you up there?
That's critical for credibility. North advises, let your personality come through. Don't be a talking head.
Right? Nobody trusts a robot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Your audience connects with a real person. And part of that is using things like humor, telling relevant stories.
Ah, stories. Yes.
Yeah, and using effective, maybe even vivid language. A funny little anecdote or a quick personal story can grab attention and make your point stick way better than just facts alone.
Okay, so be prepared, know your audience, be adaptable, be authentic. What about the actual, physical delivery?
North has some practical tips there, too. Avoid reading word for word if you can possibly help it.
Makes sense. Eye contact.
Big time. Work from an outline. That keeps you connected. And don't forget your nonverbals, your voice, your hands. Apparently, that carries most of the message. So try to omit those nervous gestures, fidgeting or pacing too much. Keep it clear.
Okay, so content's good, delivery's smooth.
Mm.
What about the structure? The beginning and end?
Super important. Like a good story, right? Needs a hook and a strong finish. North says, grab attention at the beginning and close with a dynamic end.
So, no more, hi, today I'm going to talk to you about.
Please no. Start with something arresting. A surprising stat, a quick story, a powerful quote, something to make them lean in. And then wrap it up with a really strong, memorable statement that kind of sums it all up.
Got it. And visuals, like slides.
Use them wisely, she says, sparingly, to enhance or clarify something, not to be the presentation. You want the focus on you and your message, not a busy slide.
Makes sense.
Ultimately, North's wisdom is this. Good communication is never totally perfect, and nobody expects you to be perfect. But putting in that prep time, that really helps you deliver a better speech and, crucially, minimizes those nerves.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of the practical how-to of speaking, but now let's dig a bit deeper into the why behind it all. The actual art of persuasion itself, rhetoric.
Yes, which sounds ancient, and it is, but it's incredibly relevant now. There's this Harvard online course based on Professor James Engel's campus class, Elements of Rhetoric.
Okay.
And the course really highlights that, especially today, with things being so contentious sometimes. Understanding how to build and defend solid arguments is, well, essential. For civil discussion, for actually making change happen. It helps you navigate disagreements constructively.
So rhetoric isn't just about winning an argument, it's about constructive communication.
That's a big part of it. And when you break it down, you often come back to Aristotle. The Grammarly blog also gets into this, focusing on his 3 modes of persuasion: ethos, logos, and pathos.
Ah, yes, the classics. Ethos, logos, pathos. They sound academic, but they're everywhere, right?
Absolutely everywhere. They're the core of pretty much all persuasive communication, spoken or written. Understanding them helps you craft your own arguments and analyze the ones you encounter every day.
Okay, let's break them down. Ethos first.
Right. Ethos is all about the speaker's character, their credibility. Why should anyone listen to you? Aristotle said you demonstrate things like useful skills, good character, goodwill towards the audience.
So, like, establishing you know what you're talking about and you're trustworthy.
Exactly. Think of a doctor mentioning their years of experience before giving medical advice. That's ethos. It builds trust.
Got it. Credibility. What about logos? Sounds like logic.
It is. Logos is the appeal to logic and reason. This is where your facts, your statistics, your evidence comes in. But it's also about how you structure the argument. Is it logical? Coherent?
So, the actual substance of the argument.
Yes, and how it's presented.
Yeah.
Grammarly mentions things like having a clear thesis or main point right up front and maybe strategically repeating key arguments to really hammer them home logically.
Okay, so you've got credibility and logic, but people aren't just logic machines, are they?
Not at all. And that brings us to pathos, the appeal to emotion.
Ah, the feelings.
Yep. Humans often make decisions based on how they feel. So sharing a relatable personal story, describing something vividly, using strong, emotive language that can evoke empathy or maybe anger or excitement, it creates an emotional connection.
But you have to be careful with pathos, right? It can feel manipulative if it's not done well.
Absolutely. A good persuasive communicator understands their audience and uses pathos to strengthen their logical points, not replace them or, manipulate. It's about resonance, not just pulling heartstrings randomly.
And the Harvard course you mentioned, it uses historical speeches to illustrate these.
Yeah, which is brilliant. They analyze speeches from figures like Martin Luther King Jr., JFK, Margaret Chase Smith, Ronald Reagan.
Wow.
Imagine dissecting Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech. You can see his ethos as this incredible moral leader, the undeniable logos of his arguments for equality, and of course the overwhelming pathos that literally changed the nation. It makes these concepts so real.
That sounds like a powerful way to learn. So beyond ethos, logos, pathos, did Grammarly mention any other tactics?
Yeah, a few useful ones, like
Yeah.
using strong word choice, asking questions not necessarily for answers, but to make the audience think.
Rhetorical questions.
Exactly. Also, having that clear thesis, maybe using a persuasion map to organize your thoughts beforehand, speaking directly to the reader or listener using you, and that strategic repetition we mentioned for logos. Lots of tools in the toolkit.
Okay, so we have the theory, the building blocks of rhetoric, but let's talk about seeing it in action. Real-world impact. The sources pulled lessons from, 15 great orators?
Yeah, and looking at them, you really see patterns emerge. One big one is how often they provide a compelling vision, especially in tough times.
Like FDR.
Exactly. In 1933, height of the Depression, He tells the nation, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. He wasn't just talking policy. He was shifting the entire mindset. That's powerful ethos and pathos combined.
And Dr. King's I Have a Dream.
A perfect example. He painted this picture of an egalitarian future so vividly, gave people something powerful to believe in and strive for. That emotional and logical pull helped fuel the civil rights movement.
It's also about seizing the moment, isn't it? Sometimes a crisis demands boldness.
Absolutely. Think about Winston Churchill in 1940. Dunkirk. Things looked incredibly bleak.
Right.
He didn't downplay it. He met it head on. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall never surrender. He took that fear and channeled it into this incredible resolve that's turning crisis into commitment.
And Maya Angelou at the inauguration?
Yes, the first African-American woman poet to recite at one, she totally seized that historic moment with On the Pulse of the Morning, speaking to the whole nation.
That reminds me of the authenticity point from earlier. Some speeches just ring true because they come from the heart.
Definitely. Lou Gehrig's Farewell to Baseball. Talk about pathos. Facing a terminal diagnosis, and he calls himself the luckiest man on the face of this earth.
Incredible.
He wasn't putting on a brave face. You felt his genuine gratitude, that raw honesty. That was his ethos. Harvey Milk, too, urging people to give them hope. It resonated because he lived that struggle against prejudice. His experience gave his words immense power.
And so many of these figures were speaking truth to power, weren't they? Calling out injustice.
Hugely important. Susan B. Anthony, after being arrested for voting illegally, she stood up and declared the Constitution was for the whole people, women as well as men. Talk about using logic logos to challenge the status quo.
And Frederick Douglass.
On the 4th of July, no less. He used the occasion to highlight the gross injustice and cruelty of slavery, a powerful, jarring use of pathos and logos against the backdrop of celebration.
And more recently, Malala Yousafzai.
Incredible courage, shot for advocating for girls' education, and she comes back stronger, saying strength, power, and courage was born from that attack, turning violence into a global movement. Just pure, undeniable ethos.
Sometimes, though, it seems like simplicity is the key.
You're right, it doesn't always have to be elaborate. Neil Armstrong on the moon. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Instantly iconic.
No flowery language needed, just simple, profound words that perfectly captured a monumental moment for all humanity.
Okay, so we've seen the power, the techniques, the history. It's inspiring, maybe a little intimidating. How can someone listening right now actually start cultivating these skills for themselves?
Well, that Harvard online course we mentioned, rhetoric, the art of persuasive writing and public speaking with Professor Engel, that's a really concrete option.
Right, the online one.
Yeah, it's self-paced, runs over 8 weeks, maybe 2-3 hours a week. It's structured to teach you, when and how to use different rhetorical devices, how to tell a strong argument from just a flashy technique.
Practical stuff.
You even practice writing like an opinion piece or a short speech. And crucially, it teaches you how to spot logical fallacies, which is so important today with all the information and misinformation flying around.
That sounds incredibly useful.
Yeah.
But there's a catch, right? The cost. You mentioned it offers a free audit option, but also a verified certificate for $209. And this kicked off a whole debate on Reddit, didn't it? People asking, basically, is that certificate actually worth the money?
It really did. And you saw two distinct camps emerge. On one side, you had users saying things like, the Harvard name doesn't mean much when it's just a paid online course.
Ouch.
Yeah, comparing it to maybe a Coursera or Udemy certificate, saying the $209 paper doesn't change anything on a resume. One person literally called it a $209 piece of paper, just meant to make money for the university.
Okay, so a pretty cynical take there. What was the counter-argument?
Well, the original poster on Reddit was actually a high school student from Morocco. And they pointed out that in their culture, there's a real obsession over the name and brand.
Context matters.
Exactly. For them, having Harvard on their CV, even from a paid online course, would be seen as a significant advantage, a big plus. And then you had other users who'd actually taken the course.
What did they say?
They described it really positively. Words like excellent, really good class. They recommended it if the cost was manageable, and saw the certificate less as a credential and more as like a motivator,
Right.
something to make you put in the effort and actually finish it.
So what does this all mean? What's the takeaway from that debate?
I think it really boils down to what you value most. Is it the credential itself or the knowledge you gain?
Right.
The consensus, even among the certificate skeptics, seemed to be that the actual skills you learn in a course like that, how to build arguments, understand persuasion, find your voice, those are incredibly valuable, regardless of the paper.
So the learning is the real prize.
Pretty much. Whether the certificate itself boosts your resume might depend a lot on your specific field or where you are geographically, your personal goals, but the ability to think critically and communicate persuasively, that's universally powerful.
So wrapping this all up, this whole deep dive, it really seems to circle back to a few core ideas, doesn't it?
It really does. Whether you're just trying to get over stage fright or you're crafting a major proposal or even just having a difficult conversation, the fundamentals are kind of the same. Preparation is key. Understanding your audience is non-negotiable. Authenticity builds trust.
And mastering that art of rhetoric, ethos, logos, pathos, gives you the framework.
Exactly. It gives you the tools to be effective.
From Marjorie North's real-world tips on just getting through a speech to the, world-changing impact of people like King or Churchill, it's clear that persuasive communication is, well, it's like a superpower.
It really is.
It lets you participate effectively in discussions, maybe make changes you care about, and it just benefits you across the board personally, publicly, professionally. It helps your best ideas actually get heard and hopefully acted upon.
So maybe the question to leave everyone with is this. As you think about all these tools and examples, how will you use this art of persuasion? How will you use it to champion something important or maybe bridge a divide or simply make sure your most vital ideas become impossible for people to ignore?